Welcome to this week's Wellness Webcast, also known as the Be Rescued Propolis Care Sponsored Wellness Hour. That's a long title, Mr. Sadler. I think we should petition the CEO of Little Honeys for a better title. The Be Rescued Wellness Show. Ha! How about that? I like it. CEO of Little Honeys likes it. Okay, we're all good. Welcome to the Be Rescued Wellness Show. My name is Mo Wolf. I am your host for this next half hour. It's the fastest half hour on the internet. You have joined us, so therefore you are interested in all things health, wellness, and beautiful living, and the odd honeybee thrown in here and there. You like to laugh, so welcome. You like to be informed. You are unique to the internet, and I thank you for joining me for this next half hour. We've got a couple of really interesting things on our stack of stuff today. Some of you are going to get upset because we're using Fox News as our source this week. That's just because I couldn't find anything interesting on any other sites. So work with me. Pardon me while I reach for my cup of tea. This is my cup of tea. You'll notice things are different. You'll notice right off the bat, if you've been paying attention at all for any extent of time, that things are different here at Little Honeys. Well, that's because we're no longer in the main office of Little Honeys. We're broadcasting this from the bowels, if you will, of the Siloam Center for Traditional Medicine. It is my practice that is getting ready to open here in the lovely Janesville, Wisconsin. And interestingly enough, it's right down the hall from the Little Honeys corporate offices. Corporate offices, we're a small family company. It's one office. But this is right down the hall from my office with Little Honeys, and it should work out pretty well. And welcome. We figured that since we're discussing wellness and health-related information, we should be broadcasting from such a place as this, a clinical setting, a beautiful, relaxing setting that it is. Where else are you going to go on the internet, hear health-related information, and have a reference to Laurel and Hardy like that? Nowhere else. Nowhere. I challenge you. Okay. In the interest of keeping those of you with short attention spans happy, we clicked on this to learn health information. We'll get to it. Well, I'm getting to it. This just in from Fox News, November 1st, 2013. Actually, it was from the Associated Press. Some of you got all upset for nothing. This just in from the Associated Press, November 1st, 2013. Hefty tax on soda would reduce obesity, studies show. Pardon me while I stifle a chuckle. Slapping a 20% tax on soda in Britain could cut the number of obese adults by about 180,000, according to a new study. Do you like my anchorman voice? Though the number works out to a modest drop of 1.3% in obesity. Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Mr. Sadler! I watch Top Gear. I watch British programming, and I thought Britain didn't have an obesity problem. Am I missing something here? I thought Europeans didn't have an obesity problem. I thought that was something unique to us fat, overweight Americans. Evidently not. A 20% tax on soda pop in Britain they say could cut the number of obese adults by 180,000. Wait a minute. Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's the first sentence here. The headline said the tax would reduce obesity. Now they're saying it could reduce obesity by 180,000. It could reduce it by 10. We don't know. That's just it. We don't know. Here's the thing. The problem with soda is not the soda. The problem with soda is the corn syrup that's in the soda. We talked about this in one of our last shows. As the corn syrup got injected into the formulas for creating these soda pops, then you had the volume go up on the bottles, so people are now consuming more of it, and it's no longer just a nice, sweet, tasty treat. It's now something that is craving, and you can now buy it in the economical 50-gallon drum, and you can therefore feed your addiction. Remember, we also talked last week about sugar being as addictive as cocaine. Another study was published this week actually discussing why sugar is so addictive. And it talks about how the sugar is addictive because it works on the pleasure receptors in the brain, and the pleasure receptors and the responses that it produces, and it makes you feel, ooh, so good and bubbly inside. And then that same amount of corn syrup, that same amount of sugar is no longer making you feel that good. And so you've got to have more and more. And you started out at the 12-ounce can, and now you're at the 18-ounce bottle. Now you're at the 1 liter. Woo-hoo! And next you know, you're at the Quick Trip, and you're getting yourself a super-sized mega gulp that you have to seatbelt in the car seat next to you. I wonder if that would allow you to use the carpool lane, Mr. Sattler. The problem is the addiction. The problem isn't the soda. The problem is the corn syrup and the fact that people are addicted to such a high level of fructose. The problem is not that people are drinking soda pop, that people are buying soda pop, that it's so cheap. Oh, we've got to raise the price. That never works. That doesn't work, folks. We've seen that time and again throughout the civilized world. Every time they try price fixing, and I'm not an economist, I'm not a politician, I never even played one on TV, and I don't care to. But do your history homework. It doesn't work. So here we have the headline, hefty tax on soda would. That's an absolute, isn't it? It would reduce obesity. First sentence in, slapping a 20% tax on soda in Britain could cut the number of obese adults. And then they've got in here the language of how, just if it would cut the number by a little bit. Oh, they're also saying that they're going to be putting a tax on fat-laden meat pies. Oh no, they had to backtrack on this. Pardon me while I demonstrate my frustration. The problem, as I just said, is the addiction to the corn syrup. It's not the soda, it's not the Twinkies, it's not all of this other garbage. It's what's at the heart of the matter, the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is the corn syrup. The heart of the issue is the not nation's addiction, but the global addiction to the corn syrup. No amount of tax is going to change that. No amount of tax on what people are addicted to is going to change their behavior. You might change it for a few. But as a whole, people are just going to go out and do it. That's why when you walk through impoverished neighborhoods here in the United States, and you walk through and you see what's out there at the curb for their garbage collection day, it's really easy to cook stuff, high trans fats, high sodium contents, high sugar contents. And it's not because that's cheaper. It's not because it's more economical to eat that way. It's actually more expensive to live on Lunchables and Ritz crackers and pizzas. That's more expensive than it is to go out and buy yourself a good clean piece of beef, cut it up decently into decent proportions, and then maybe, oh, I don't know, buy some rice, cook some rice with it. You could even make a nice gravy out of that beef, I'll bet. Put that over the rice. Bon appetit. But no, you need a vegetable, so why not stop off at, oh, I don't know, the local grocery store and get some raw vegetables? And if you really want to do it right, maybe you should go and get some raw organic vegetables that are, you know, pretty locally grown. It's been demonstrated in a number of places. We'll have to probably look those up because some of you are getting your ire up saying, prove it, prove it! It's been demonstrated time and again that it's actually easier and cheaper to eat good, clean, healthy diet than it is to eat the refined, processed diet that comes in a box that you nuke in your microwave. It's been shown over and over that it's healthier to eat this way. When you start eating good, clean food that's not processed and refined, that's not laden down with all of the preservatives, that's not chocked full of corn syrup, then perhaps we can start lowering the obesity rate. And you know what? You didn't have to tax it. All you had to do was convince people to quit being lazy. People drink the soda because it's good, cheap fun. At least that's where they started out. And then it became socially acceptable to start drinking. When I was a kid, you couldn't have soda pop any time before 11 in the morning. And any time after 5 o'clock at night, ooh, you're not going to sleep tonight. You can't drink that. That's the way it was when I was a kid. You had this 6 to 7 hour window that you could have soda pop in, and it came in the little cans, you know, and the problem is once they started putting corn syrup in there and they started increasing the volumes of these soda pops, it became more and more socially acceptable to start drinking this stuff at all hours of the day. And now you've got people waking up, and first thing they do, instead of drinking their morning cup of joe, is they go and they drink their morning Mountain Dew, also known affectionately as weasel pea. I know we'll probably get a cease and desist letter from, is it Pepsi that owns Mountain Dew? You can no longer call our products weasel pea. Okay. Until you send me that letter, I will still refer to it as such. Enough about that. Enough about the soda pop. Next, should you try these fad diets? And this was from Fox News, published October 30th, 2013. And basically what they're doing is they're saying, oh, we've got all these fad diets that are out there. We've got the green smoothies, we've got gluten-free, we've got probiotics, we've got chia seeds, bee pollen, coconut water, genetic diet testing, paleo diet, coconut oil. We're going to take an in-depth look at these. We're going to take an in-depth look at each one of these and write maybe a sentence or two on the pros and cons. How's that for in-depth? Now, I'm glad they're taking a look at some of this stuff. I'm glad. But I wish when we try to boil down information for those people who have such short attention spans that, like the general public, that we wouldn't feed that short attention span, that we wouldn't put it into sound bites so that way they just get what we want them to know in short little sound bites, because you're not doing the truth much good here. Expert opinion about green smoothies. The phytonutrients in green smoothies may help lower inflammation in your body, which could help reduce risk of many diseases from heart disease to cancer. There's no hard evidence that they increase energy. By adding a bit of fat to your green smoothie, a tablespoon of walnuts, ground flaxseed, say, can help stabilize blood sugar, keeping you off the energy spike, then crashing like a roller coaster. Ooh, drama. Bottom line, if green smoothies help you up your daily intake of fruits and vegetables, go for it! Just keep in mind that they're not meant to be meal replacements. Come on, is that the best we can do for educating people about green smoothies? Phytonutrients in green smoothies phytonutrients in general are fantastic. And yes, there have been numerous studies showing that they do help lower inflammation in the body. Now, what is inflammation related to in the body? Well, you've got arthritis, okay. You've got migraine headaches, or back for those of folks in the UK that are thinking about taxing soda pops, migraines. You've got fibromyalgia type issues, you've got prostate issues, you've got all these. Anytime there's an itis in the body, that's heat, that's inflammation. Phytonutrients can help lower inflammation in the body. Gluten-free. They talk about how the label's popping up on everything from pancake mix to bottled water. Do you know why it's popping up on everything from pancake mix to bottled water? Because there are those of us in this world who are severely sensitive and or deathly allergic to the swill, and we have to be very careful. And so whether it's trying to buy a pancake mix that won't make your child deathly ill, or buying a bottle of water that now they're using plant material to make plastics, and those of us that are in the gluten-free community are very concerned about the potential of cross-contamination, some of these gluten proteins getting into that mix. I'm not a chemist, so I don't know the chemistry of it. I haven't looked into it, but this is where I'm assuming the worry is coming from. So now certain bottlers of water are now having to put a gluten-free label on their bottles. It makes sense to me, because people are scared to death that they're going to be sick or their child is going to get sick. So the expert opinion on gluten-free diet is the only way to know if you have a sensitivity is to eliminate foods that contain gluten for a few weeks and see how you feel, said Chris Clark, a registered dietitian and the director of sports nutrition at Penn State University. If you notice a reduction in bloating or constipation, you may in fact have a gluten sensitivity. Did it take a degree to come up with that thought? Foregoing gluten may help you lose weight, but that's probably because you have given up calorie-dense grains, which are easy to overeat. I remember we talked a couple weeks ago. Boy, this show is cutting edge, man. Mr. Sadler, did you ever think you'd be part of a show that was as cutting edge and on the cusp of cultural movement forward? I didn't think so. Mr. Sadler rolled his eyes. A couple of weeks ago we talked about why gluten-free is important and why celiac disease is important. The problem is, for some of us, gluten causes a very scary autoimmune response within the body. And remember the little villi that line the small intestine, and they increase that surface area from just a little tube to the surface area as actually the size of an Olympic tennis court. It's an incredible feat of engineering. But what happens is if someone is even sensitive to gluten, you get this reaction taking place, this chemical reaction, because the body can't handle that protein. And the body doesn't digest foods properly, doesn't digest nutrients properly, and so you get this imbalance. And anytime there's an imbalance within the body, well, things don't play well in Peoria. Now everybody in Peoria is writing me letters. Oh boy. Hey, I like Peoria. It's just when there's gluten present, it doesn't play well there. So if your body is out of balance, that means your metabolism is going to be out of balance, which means that your metabolism isn't going to be functioning properly, which could possibly lead to some hypofunction of the thyroid, which could lead to increase in weight gain. So it would follow that, you know, if you get rid of that protein that's causing the problem, the gluten, then it's not just an issue of eating calorie-dense grains, it's an issue of bringing the body back into balance. Then they talk about probiotics and chia seeds, and then they talk about bee pollen. Some research has shown that bee pollen could be beneficial. Proponents claim that it can do everything from boosting stamina to easing allergy symptoms. Guess what? Those aren't claims. Those are actually bona fide scientific research studies that have been executed both in this country and in countries around the world. You may want to reword that. That's about as misleading as that headline on the UK tax. They do say that a mix of honey and bee pollen has significant anti-inflammatory properties, and that, just as a side note, a 2012 study from Turkey showed that in rats, bee pollen decreased bone loss due to osteoporosis. You didn't hear that, did you? Good. A 2012 study from Turkey showed that in rats, bee pollen decreased bone loss due to osteoporosis. Now, what happened there was they were expanding on some work done by some other folks who showed that, well, they were interested in the fact that honey can help the body absorb calcium. And so then they were looking at the nutrients found in the pollen as well, and they started seeing all these phytonutrients. They started seeing all of these wonderful enzymes in the body. Enzymes are golden. And they started studying this stuff, and they were very interested, of course, in the osteoporosis. They were all specialists. You're special too. Bottom line, you get articles like this that talk about all kinds of things that are good for the body. Some of them are fads, some of them are passing fancies. Just spend a couple days at one of the natural products expos anywhere in the country, whether it's Expo West in Anaheim or Expo East, I think that's in Baltimore. Walk around the trade show floor and you will find all kinds of silver bullets and miracle cures and all kinds of things. Everyone's marketing and vying to be the next new fad. But you know what? These things that we were reading about, a lot of the things they were talking about in that article and were actually cautioning people about, were things that according to the ancients, were very effective for health. Hippocrates, father of modern medicine, you know, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. Remember that, guys? Hippocrates said, let your food be your medicine and medicine be your food. He also said that pollen, bee pollen, is for health. Bee propolis is for life. In other words, you want to be healthy? You want to be healthy? Eat your bee pollen. This is my secret stash right here. This is what I keep on my desk. He says, you want to be healthy? Eat your bee pollen. He says, but propolis is for life. In other words, if there is a very acute problem in the body, my goodness, that's tasty. He says if there's a very acute problem in the body, a very serious problem, that's when you bring out the propolis. But yet, the wizards of smart are telling us, oh, caution, caution, these things have not been proven by medical science. You sit in lectures discussing herbology, Chinese medicine, and you hear the outcry of Western medical wizards of smart saying, oh, you can't prove that your product doesn't have negative connotations, doesn't have negative results. You can't prove that your herb, this herbal formula that's been used for thousands of years with great success and negligible or minimal side effect, you can't prove, you can't do it. You cannot prove that this stuff could not harm somebody. And so far, nobody's been smart enough to stand up and say, you can't prove a negative. You can't. I cannot prove that this teacup right here is not hurting me in some way. I can't prove it. That's about as dumb as shoveling refuse to the tide. To paraphrase what a dear mentor in business used to say. Some of you watching this will say, oh, I remember him. I know who he's talking about. Lastly, published October 30th, 2013 from Reuters, a very interesting article saying that smokers' skin may age faster, study of twins shows. And basically what they did was a dermatologist from the Washington Institute of Dermatologic Laser Surgery and George Washington University Medical Center, that's a mouthful to say, did a study of 79 pairs of identical twins. And they were on average in their late 40s. About 3/4 of them were women. That's 75%. 45 sets of these twins included one smoker and one non-smoker. And what they found was the smokers had an increase in wrinkles, had an increase in, well, they aged quicker. They didn't look as pretty as their identical twin after 40, 50, 60 years. Do you remember the old poster that had the really weird looking guy? Hello there. And he's smoking a cigarette and the caption was, smoking is very glamorous. Well, here's your proof. Thank you, Reuters. We are out of time. I'm telling you, this is the fastest 30 minutes on the internet. And this 30 minutes was brought to you by the good folks at Be Rescued Propolis Care, my family. Making products that are 100% pure and natural, 100% effective, glorious products. Products that were designed to change your life. Take a look at the website, beerescued.com. Take a look at these products, take a look at the company. I think it will be encouraging to you that there are still good-hearted folks out there in the world trying to do the right thing. Until next week, the music's coming up. Until next week, thank you for joining us. And for all of us here at Little Honeys and the Siloam Center for Traditional Medicine, be well.